My name is Leah. I live in New York City. I'm 35 years old. This story begins when I was 23, though, 22, 23, just out of college. And it's about my grandfather and a very, very strange dream I had after he passed away. And that was kind of the weird part of the story, too, is that he passed away fairly quickly. My grandfather was what we called a piddler. Like, he was always piddling around. He was always fixing something. He was always patching something up. He could not sit still. He moved to back to New Jersey when he was about 79, but right up until about the age of 76 or so, he lived in Florida. And one of the last, that's kind of like, I think, why he moved to be closer to a little bit more family. One of the last things my mom kind of caught him doing that he knew he wasn't supposed to be doing was fixing something on his roof. He's, mid 70s on the top of the roof, trying to patch a shingle, and she pulls into the driveway and sees him up there and freaks out because it just wasn't safe for someone. He wasn't frail by any means, but, by the same token, he was hardly in the type of shape where you should be, climbing around on your roof and climbing up ladders 2 stories and all that kind of stuff. So, point being that he was just a busy bee. And what is right up until the end, it got to the point, though, where he was older and didn't need care necessarily, but we were the only ones in Florida, and our extended family was in New Jersey. So he moved back at one point to just have more people around to just make sure he was okay. And again, though, it was just kind of keeping busy. He had a new grandchild and my little cousin, and everything was moving right along. He really wasn't unhealthy until he discovered a spot on his head that turned out to be melanoma. He went to the doctor, it didn't look right, and within a week, he had died. The melanoma, I guess, in normal cases maybe wouldn't have been so bad, but because of his advanced age and the fact that, the immune system just isn't what it is when you're younger, it spread very, very, very quickly, and he passed away somewhat fast. Luckily, my mom was out there to be able to say goodbye, but it was still pretty traumatic because you don't go from being really, really busy and running around and driving a car to dead within a week. It just wasn't something we were expecting. So it was very, very hard on my mom and her sisters. And there are 6 sisters in my mom's family. My mom is the middle. And between all 6 of them, there's only about 10 or 11 years difference. So it's a very close-knit sisterhood. And as such, they kind of tend to keep things from the second layer, if you will, me and my sister and my cousins that are all the daughters and sons of those 6 sisters. So we catch some snippets every now and again, but certainly not everything. And so I didn't know, particularly at that time, which is where things get weird, that my mom and her sisters were very, very concerned that because he died so quickly, was it peaceful for him? He was surprised. My mom said that when she saw him in the hospital in those last few days, he kind of looked at her and he said, "Susie, I'm dying." And he couldn't believe it for all the reasons that I just mentioned. It was a surprise to him, and they were worried about that because who wouldn't be? It was kind of traumatic for them to think that he hadn't made peace with the things that a longer illness would have allowed you to make peace with, and that he maybe crossed over being very upset or shocked or, all the things that you might think. I did not know that, though. I wasn't living at home at the time. I was just coming in and out basically to visit fairly regularly. So one night I was at home, though, sleeping in my childhood bedroom, and had a very specific dream. Picture almost a blue sky, white fluffy clouds, and this piece of very fancy parchment unrolls itself over this beautiful serene setting, and there was like a very fancy pen, like a fountain pen, like a big quill pen, type of old-fashioned pen, basically. And it starts writing in and of itself, or by itself, I should say, in like a golden ink. And the voice, almost like a movie style, the voice moving the pen is my grandpa's. And it was a letter that he was composing that I was reading and hearing as he was quote unquote writing it, where he was saying that he was at peace. He was with my grandmother. Please don't worry. I had a great life. Basically just saying that he was on the other side and it was all good. That was like the gist of it as I remember it now. I wish I had written it down or something, to look back now, but the general tone and feeling from the letter was that all was well. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm at peace. All good. And I woke up and I felt very peaceful myself. It was just very interesting. I hadn't seen it coming. Like I said, I didn't know that this was even something our family was talking about. It being kind of young and not appreciative yet of, the idea of your parents passing away. It never even dawned on me that was something that would be concerned. In my mind, he was almost 80 and, these things happen. So I went downstairs the next morning and I told my mom, I said, I had the weirdest dream last night about Grandpa, and she kind of gave me a look, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I told her what had happened, and her eyes just got real big, and she was like, I can't believe that. Have you heard us talking? And I said, who talking? It was like one of those moments where no one knows what the other's talking about for a minute, until finally she mentioned that her and her sisters have been really worried about this, and I had answered a bunch of the questions that they'd been talking about on the phone for like the last few weeks, and I was not freaked out. I was happy that I was able to put that to rest. It just kind of, you wonder why me, how do you know these things? Why what was this? It was very interesting. So, of course, my mom got on the phone like right away, and the six of them were on the phone for like 2 days discussing this dream, and then that was just the gist that like everything was good, and they had said that at the time that really made them feel so much better about the way things had gone down and if he was okay. And he had always missed my grandmother very, very much. So that piece of the puzzle, she had died at 65. So he had been a widow for about 14 or 15 years and still talked about her, so lovingly. So that piece of the puzzle, was very important to them to know that they were together, reunited and happy and, peaceful together. That gave them a lot of comfort. So I've really not dreamed anything like that ever again in any way, shape, or form about anyone. I'm not even positive I've had them come to me in dreams after that. It was really just that one time, maybe one other time with my other grandparents, but that was more, that was something else. I can't even remember it now, but yeah, it was really a once in a lifetime dream that seemed to answer a bunch of questions that I didn't even know needed answering. And I was always just really, really thankful, A, that he chose me to deliver it, and B, that I was able to give my aunts, all of whom I love very much and didn't know were struggling with that, some measure of peace. So that was great. And because of that and other experiences, I absolutely believe in the supernatural. I think, to me, it's always about energy transference, if you will. Like, I've always just thought that, even though our physical selves aren't here, the energy, space, matter, and time and all that good stuff does live on in some way, shape, or form. And to me, this was just a confirmation of that. I'd believed that before this. I certainly didn't believe it less after this. So yeah, it was just, it's always given me great comfort too about what the future holds for anybody I love passing on, that, you can receive messages, or others can receive messages to your questions. So don't be afraid to put them out there in the hopes that, that person listens and understands and gets back to you at some point in some way. So thanks for letting me share it.